Bonsoir tout le monde. Tonight we're talking about telling a story in the past tense using both the passé composé and the imparfait at the same time, because really that's how we speak naturally. We don't separate our stories into the passé composé or the imparfait. They're both going to occur at the same time in anything we're talking about. So let's talk about how we're going to do that. Le décor, well, that's describing the setting. And whenever we're describing a setting, we use the imperfect. Il était midi dans le petit village de Barbizon. It was noon in the small village of Barbizon. Il faisait beau. Whenever we discuss the weather in the past tense, we're going to use the imparfait because weather is describing the scenery. Il n'y avait personne dans les rues. There was nobody in the streets. Again, I'm talking about the scenery, the setting, so I'm using the imperfect. Au café de la Poste, les clients déjeunaient tranquillement. At the café of the Poste, the customers were having lunch or were lunching peacefully. Tranquillement means peacefully. Soudain, une grosse voiture noire est arrivée. Remember, when we use time expressions like soudain or tout à coup, which both mean suddenly or all of a sudden, we're going to be in the passé composé because we're saying a specific moment in time. Suddenly, a big black car arrived. This is the passé composé. Don't forget, arriver is a Van der Tramp verb, so it takes être as its helping verb, and when we have être as the helping verb, we must have the agreement of the past participle with the subject. Une voiture is feminine, so I add an I to arriver. Elle s'est arrêtée devant le café de la Poste. It stopped itself in front of the café de la Poste. All right, this is going to be reflexive. The car is stopping itself. It stopped in front of the Café de la Poste. It did that suddenly. There was a specific moment in time, so I'm using the passé composé. Un homme est descendu et est entré dans le café. A man got out, or he descended from the car, and entered into the café. Okay, all in the passé composé here. Both of these are être verbs. Tout le monde l'a regardé. Everyone looked at him. This is our pronoun. Elle, le, is taking the place of un homme, comes before the verb. Everyone looked at him. Tout le monde a reconnu le grand acteur Gérard d'Auteuil. And everyone recognized the big actor Gérard d'Auteuil. Reconnu, this is the verb reconnaître. We learned connaître means to recognize, connaître means to know someone, to be familiar with a person or a place. Reconnaître means to recognize. It takes savoir, and like connaître has connu as its past participle, reconnaître has reconnu as its past participle. Everyone recognized that ed in English, that verb ending, passé composé. Tout le monde a commencé à applaudir. Everyone started to applaud. Commencer, passé composé. Take savoir. Everyone started to applaud. If you need to, you can pause and go back. You should be writing down the French examples as well as what they mean in English, so that when you go back and look at it, you know what it says. Okay, so we're going to look at the difference between the imperfect and the passé composé. We're going to look at something that we were doing at the time something else happened. Remember, ing, imperfect, ed, passé composé. Go ahead and write this down. Okay. Il y a eu une explosion. There was an explosion. Quand vous avez entendu l'explosion, qu'est-ce que vous faisiez? When you heard the explosion, what were you doing? Okay, so here I have the passé composé. And here I have the imperfect. Many times, we'll use the word quand, the question word quand, when we're describing these situations where something was going on at the time something else occurred. Je lisais. I was reading. Or, je regardais la télévision. I was watching TV. Je faisais la vaisselle. I was doing the dishes. When you heard the explosion, what were you doing? I was reading. I was watching the TV. I was doing the dishes. Now, here we have a similar situation, but just a little different. Il y a une explosion. There was an explosion. Quand vous avez entendu l'explosion, when you heard the explosion, qu'est-ce que vous avez fait? What did you do? So both of these are in the passé composé because that can happen. It depends on the context of what we're talking about. So when you heard the explosion, what did you do? That's the passé composé. And you're going to answer that with the passé composé. Je me suis levé. I got up. Je suis allé à la fenêtre. I went to the window. J'ai téléphoné à la police. I called the police. So as you can see, when something happened suddenly, you might have been doing something, or when something happened suddenly, you might have done something. So you see we can use it either way. Passé composé with the imperfect to describe the setting or the scene, and then passé composé with passé composé to describe something that happened and what we did about it. Go ahead, write these down, so I'll give you a minute. There was an explosion. When you heard the explosion, what were you doing? I was reading. There was an explosion. When you heard the explosion, what did you do? I got up. You see the difference? Let's take a look at this example. Last summer, Anne and Alice left Paris and went to a summer resort. I want to put this in the past tense, and I have to choose between the passé composé or the imperfect. Let's think about it. Last summer, Anne and Alice left Paris, quitter. Is that going to be the passé composé or the imperfect? If you said the passé composé, you're right. On quitté. And they went to a summer resort. Passé composé or imperfect? Well, I said went, I didn't say we're going. So we're going to do the passé composé both times. On quitté. Quitter, ER verb that takes avoir in the passé composé. And sont allés. Aller always takes être in the passé composé. And my past participle has to agree with my subject. And my subject is two girls. So I have an E and an S. Does that make sense? I hope so. We can talk about it in class tomorrow. Let's try another one. When they were young, they lived in Nice, and they often swam in the sea. Oof, okay, this gets tricky. Because we say they lived in Nice, but do we really mean they were living in Nice? That's the question. The first part's easy, right? When they were young, être, that's going to be the imperfect. And what about the second one? Let's take a look. So, the verb habiter is tricky because you can say somebody lived somewhere for a certain amount of time, but if you're talking about in general their youth when they were young, there's no specific amount of time mentioned, we're going to use the imperfect. So when they were young, they were living in Nice, and they often swam in the sea. This word souvent tells me that I'm going to be in the imperfect. D'habitude is another one of those time expressions that we know tells us we're going to use the imperfect. D'habitude is usually. Usually their brother left the house in order to go to the sea at 9 o'clock. But this morning, he left at 10 o'clock. So we have d'habitude, imperfect, right? And we have ce matin, passé composé. This one's a little tricky. He was playing in the sand when Anne told him to return home. Okay. He was playing in the sand. That sounds like the imperfect, right? Because of the ing. And that's the setting. That's the scene that's going on. When Anne told him, I think that one's going to be in the passé composé. What do you think? Let's check. He was playing in the sand when Anne told him to return home. Chez eux means home, where they live, at their house. We're going to be doing a lot of these in class for practice. But again, remember what I said. It's not just about knowing how to form these verb tenses anymore. We have to understand how we're using them. And if we can do that, if we know in our own language what it means, then we can pick the right one. Their mother was making their lunch when they arrived. Again, mother was making lunch. ing. When they arrived. ed. Imparfait, passé composé. Don't forget, arriver always takes être in the passé composé. All right, guys, good job. I know I went a little quick there, so please, if you missed anything, go back, watch it again. Pause when you have to so you can make sure you get everything down. It's important that you understand what all the sentences and the examples mean. I will see you tomorrow, and we will do some more work. Merci. Bonne soirée.